Why does the Constitution let Congress change federal election rules over time? In Federalist number 61, Alexander Hamilton's back and he explains that a republic can't survive if its election rules are frozen in 1787. And so a growing nation needs laws that it can grow with. Different eras, different populations, and different needs. You know, the founders built flexibility into that system on purpose. I'm Matt Hasquin. I'm a high school history and civics teacher, and we're going through all 85 of the Federalist Papers together, and we're up to number 61. Alexander Hamilton returns in this edition, and let's take a look here. Let's go ahead and set the stage. So in the Anti-Federalists claimed that Congress would use its power over time, place, and manner of elections. That way they could play political games. But Hamilton responds with a larger point, and that is a young nation spread across such enormous distances needs adaptable election laws, or else the entire government becomes brittle. So this particular essay is about adaptation, one of the Constitution's underrated strengths. Hamilton's main claim is this, and that is Congress must be able to adjust election regulations because only a national legislature can address national emergencies, expansion, and change. And you need rigid rules to do things like rigid rules can lead to things like logistical chaos or vulnerability to sabotage or inability to respond to crises, misalignment with population growth, or unfair or outdated procedures. And you need a flexible system that, is a reliant system. And so Hamilton argues that that uniform national election rules, when needed, help prevent confusion and fraud. And he gives a few examples, like under the Articles of Confederation, states using widely different dates, or voters in one region voting weeks earlier than others, or deadlocked or disputed timelines, economic disruption caused by scattered election calendars. The uniformity that the Constitution could provide prevents a patchwork chaos. Now, if Congress could never adjust election rules or laws, Hamilton warns that the system would suffer things like new states couldn't be incorporated smoothly, or population shifts couldn't be represented accurately, or you could have the districting could become outdated or unfair. And then in emergencies, wars, riots, epidemics, those things could disrupt elections permanently. And so a republic should be living, not frozen in its founding year. Now, Hamilton acknowledges the fear that the Anti-Federalists bring up. Won't Congress abuse this flexibility? And he says Congress is controlled by the people. States retain significant election powers. The Senate and the House must agree. Elections themselves punish abuse. Abusive laws affect the lawmakers themselves, and conspiracy across states and the two chambers is nearly impossible. He argued those things back in essay number 60. So the system that the Constitution creates blocked the centralization of manipulation. Now, Anti-Federalists hated the idea that Congress could alter state congressional districts. Hamilton argues, Congress won't use this power lightly. States control most of the process, and only when necessary will Congress intervene, and then the purpose is national stability, not domination. He sees this as more of a defensive power and not an aggressive one. Now, the question, why national crises require action? Well, this is Hamilton's most urgent point in his reasoning here. So if war, invasion, or internal unrest disrupt elections in one state, that state wouldn't have the power to do things like break the union or interrupt representation or stop Congress from meeting altogether. Congress must be able to step in order to keep the machinery of government running. That's not ambition, that's just survival. So Hamilton's logic in this one, his chain of reasoning, is 1, that election flexibility is essential for a growing nation. 2, uniform rules prevent confusion and fraud. 3, the right procedures, they create the rigid procedures, create danger and crises, and Congress's power is unlimited and balanced by the states. And finally, our 5th reason why, abuse is prevented by structure and accountability. And that's number 61 in 5 steps. Now, this essay is Hamilton as the planner, right? Thinking decades or even generations ahead. And he's foreseeing a continent that will add new states or expand westward, increase in population, and then face unforeseen challenges. And any rules that are static or rigid would cripple the future. And Hamilton makes a subtle moral point in his argument. A republic that cannot adapt will eventually fail its own people, because election laws must serve justice and fairness and practicality and legitimacy, because if they don't, the system becomes more of a museum piece. It's honored, but it's useless. And so flexibility is not a threat to liberty, it's actually a safeguard. Now, Federalist number 61 does resonate with debates today, like we talked about in number 60, like emergency election changes or mail-in voting, pandemic disruptions, early voting periods, federal standards, uniform national election dates, and then districting reforms or voting technology. All those things, even though they refer to our times, Hamilton's message is still going to apply there, because election systems must evolve or they become obstacles to democracy. Now, our three takeaways in this essay are: one is that flexibility in federal election law is a feature, not a flaw. Two, Congress's authority is limited but necessary for national stability. And three, a republic must adapt in order to survive. Federalist number 61 is Hamilton's defense of adaptability in the Constitution. He's teaching that rigid systems collapse, but flexible systems endure. The Constitution allows Congress to regulate elections because the founders knew that the country wouldn't stay the same size or shape or population for very long. Good election laws don't just describe the present, they also prepare for the future. If this episode helped you see why our election laws need flexibility, please take the time and maybe share this with a friend who has some questions, and introduce them to the Federalist Papers, and then join me tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, isn't it? Yeah. And I'll try to sneak away and find some time, and I've already got number 62 ready to go. And in number 62, this is where James Madison comes back for us, and he takes a turn to the Senate, and he asks, why do we need a second house of Congress at all? Why do we need a bicameral Congress? Thanks for hanging around for this one. Appreciate it.